All right, I'm coming up closer for this one because Granny needs you to get this and get this right now. You don't have to be there. If you're going to your relatives for the holidays and you know for certain that Big Mama or Uncle John or Aunt Susie that has invited somebody who has done you wrong, who has abused you, or if one of them have abused you, there's no law saying that you have to be there. You do not, and I repeat, you do not have to subject yourself to that type of trauma. Peace and blessings, everyone. We are back. And if this is your first time here, hey, this is Elegant Granny. I am your restoration strategist and creator and host of the Proactive Eye podcast. I am here working on being consistent is one of my demons that I am about to conquer. I have already conquered it in my head, but yeah, I have to put that to work. Can't just be in my head. I got to put it to action. So today I am talking about saying no to trauma at Christmas. I'm going to give you a little bit backstory on why I decided to do this. As a child, I grew up in a not so good home, as many of you probably have. And there are some of you who do not. I'm so grateful you did not experience that because it's no fun. I grew up watching my mother being abused. She took us and ran away, and we ended up, she raised us as a single mom, but she had help. She comes from a very, very large family, and she had help. And I'm so glad that we come from a large family where there's always someone there to support us. My grandparents, especially my grandfather, was my biggest supporter with anything. So anyway, as time went on and I became older, it became much harder for me to be home for the holidays. As I became an adult, it became very hard for me to be home for the holidays because there were some other things I had decided to work on healing and actually protecting myself. I worked on protecting myself because at that point I wasn't healing. I was working on protecting myself from trauma and saying no. And I had gotten to the point where I had stopped going around and being around my family as much because that was my way of protecting myself. Because in my head and in my heart, peace was more important. So I was protecting myself by not being around certain family members, especially those who caused me harm. And a lot of family didn't get that. They didn't understand it and they were against it, especially around family reunion time. I didn't show up. And I had this one particular uncle who used to always find me. No matter where I was, he would find me and just want to add more trauma by wanting to tell me how much that I was forsaking family and family is important no matter what and this, that, and the other. And I'm trying to explain to him that it wasn't good for me to be there, that I had things, more important things that I needed to do to take care of myself. And my peace was more important. He was not hearing it. He just was not hearing it. And it got to the point where I started closing him off. I did not hear anything he said. If he showed up, showed around, he never got the respect of me paying attention to what he had to say because, first of all, he wasn't respecting me. He was not respecting what was important to me. He wasn't respecting my boundaries that I had that I'm trying to work on not dealing with triggers. And he couldn't get that. And so what he was doing to me was adding more insult to that injury. And I just wasn't having it. Anyway, this particular year, it was the year that I had had major surgery. I had became very, very ill. And I'll tell you about that in another video. But I was very ill. It hadn't been that long since I came out of the hospital. And Surgery was like 2 weeks prior to family reunion, and I was at home healing, and he shows up. I was staying with another family member. Well, she's a very close friend to the family. We respect her by calling her aunt. And so he knew I was there, and he came over there as sick as I was, him and his then wife. Um, and he proceeded as he normally does. And she started looking at me. She said, "You really are sick." I said, "Yes, I'm not playing. I just had surgery." And so he kept saying, "I don't care. You need to be there for family, da 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 da." I didn't care. That's just how Aquarians are. We just like once we make up our mind about something, that's just it. So I forgot what he said that angered me. And the last thing I remember him saying is, "You're not as sick as you think you are. You can still press your way to be there." And I started to say something disrespectful, but in my head, quickly, I thought, you know what? I'm not going to even go there. So I said to myself, "You're about to see what I'm talking about." Y'all. See, this is why my mom used to always tell me I have to be very, very careful of the things I say, even things that I think, because I am a lot more powerful than I realize. And at that time, I still didn't get it. Um, no sooner I said it, right after, right after family reunion, he got so deathly ill. He's no longer with us, by the way. He became very, very, very ill, and he's the only one in that generation who's no longer with us. And you know, at one point I felt bad, but hey, that was karma. Not saying that he deserved it, but you gotta pay attention to how some things you say to people, you don't know why that person made the decision that they made. I just want people to understand. I know it's holiday time. Christmas is coming up. New Year's is coming up. If it is very uncomfortable for you to be around family or certain people who family consider as friends, but they are considered in your heart and in your mind and according to the experience that you had with them, if they are an enemy of yours, you don't have to be there. You don't have to be there. Now, it's different if you are living in the house of the person who has invited these people. There's nothing you can do about that. Now, the only thing you can do about that is if you tell them, "I don't want to be around that person. This person makes me feel this way," or "this person has harmed me," or something like that. If you choose to share that with them and they still say, "This is my house and you can't tell me who I can and cannot have in my house," that's okay. That's okay. You already know what to do for 2022. Get out your pen and paper and plan your way out of that house. That is a toxic house. You do not have to deal with that. You do not have to be there. You do not have to remain there. I understand you may have come out of a situation, out of one toxic situation, and sometimes you're in another one, trying to get away from one. You don't have to be there. You do not have to subject yourself to trauma. So even if it is the holidays, if being at Big Mama's house and you see Uncle John and Uncle John raped you when you was 10 years old, and at some point during the family gathering, that thought keeps pounding in your head and that's all you see, and you know how it makes you feel. You know you are uncomfortable. You know you want to just throw everything up you just ate. You know you just want to pick up a chair and sling it and just go off. You don't have to put yourself through that. It is okay to say no. It is okay to say no to trauma. You do not have to accept that. You don't. So if you do not live there at the house that you were invited to, and you know somebody is going to be there that's going to trigger you. And sometimes it's not so much that that person has done anything to you personally. Sometimes they will bring up a conversation about what you just left and you don't want to deal with it. And you know, this is that person that's always going to do that regardless. You don't have to be there. You don't have to be there. I know that's your grandmama's house. I know that's your mama and your daddy's house. I know that's your little sister's house. It don't matter. If they have somebody there that is going to cause you more harm, you do not, listen to my lips, you do not have to be there. Go to your own house. Celebrate with yourself. Celebrate with your children, because think about this too. Children pay more attention to you than you think they do. They really do. I paid attention to all my mother's moments, all of her emotions. I looked at that. I saw that. I read that. I felt that. Children feel more than you think they do. They know when you are in pain. Even though they may not tell you that, they know you are in pain. And even though you are lying, they can feel you. They are you. They are a portion of you. They know when you're in pain. That's not something that you want your children to end up feeling, end up having to endure, because you don't know how that's going to affect them as they age. Be mindful of what triggers you. Be mindful of people who trigger you, situations, environments. If it is not making you happy to be at your grandmother's house where a rape occurred, or where you saw abuse or anything like that, you think it's going to trigger you, you don't have to go. You do not. It is okay. Let me get closer. You do not have to go. It is so important for you to understand that you do not have to go. You don't. I can't stress that enough. You don't have to go. I don't know what else I can do to get you to understand. It's okay to say no. If they get mad, so what? They just get mad. They just get mad. Yeah, so I stayed away from my family for 10 years before I decided to get back with them. When I decided to get back with my family, this was before I married my ex-husband. When I decided to get back with them, I had just worked on doing a little bit of healing. And I had broke off from the family church and I went to another church. And I worked on healing myself, because this particular church I went to, they didn't know everything that I went through. They knew my family, but they didn't really know me. They didn't know everybody in my family. They didn't know everything that went on. They didn't know why I was there. They just knew I was there and they were happy I was there. But there was so much that went on that they were not aware of. And I got what I needed from them those 10 years. After those 10 years, I left them and went back to church with my family, my original family. And I stayed there for a little while. I stayed there for maybe 3 years, and then I just cut. Because I had made up in my mind that the growth that I had experienced with myself, I had evolved those 10 years that I was gone. I was happy to be back with my family. I was. And I went to church because I knew that's where they were going to be. And that was basically all the reason why I was at church, because I wanted to spend time with my mom and my sisters and their children. Nothing else. Nothing else at the church mattered to me. I had to be there because I wanted to be with them. The way I worked, the only time I was going to see them was in church, because that's a big part of my family is church on my mom's side. Well, both sides. And so I got to the point where church wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. And I felt like I was being a hypocrite by continuing to go, knowing that I wasn't supposed to be there. And it was causing me harm to continue being there when I knew I wasn't supposed to be there, when I know it was making me feel a certain way. Because each time, there's a certain time in your life where there are different things from your past that you have suppressed and repressed. They will surface, especially when you don't deal with it. And something else from that particular church came up that I had suppressed, and I needed to leave again. So I left. And to this day, I have not been back. Now, I have been back as far as meeting some family members there, or dropping my mother off. She wanted to go to church and she didn't have a way to go. So I would pick her up and take her there. And that was pretty much it. I still have not been back. Not saying that I won't ever go back, because I know my family is going to be there and I love my family. And sometimes when I have an event, they come with me. That's just what family does. But just understand, my whole point of this video is you do not have to subject yourself to trauma. If something that you know what triggers you, you know what triggers you better than anyone else. And so I'm just going to continue saying, you don't have to go. If being at somebody's house during the holidays is going to cause you some emotional distress, you don't have to be there. You do not. That's all I have for you today. I just wanted to come in and say that. And I thank you for being here. I want you to understand you are worth saving. You are worth protecting your peace. Saying no helps you protect your peace. It helps you to protect you. No matter how they feel about it, it protects you. You just don't have to go. You don't have to do it. You don't have to. You're a full-grown person. You don't have to do that. I just want you to understand that. Okay, I'm going to leave now because I have some other things to do. And I just want you to remember that healing is a continuous process, not a one-shot deal. Much love, peace, light, and healing vibes. Take it easy.